Welcome to the Employee Advocacy and Influence podcast. My name is Bradley Keenan, and with me, I have, after many months of being apart, we're finally reunited. It is Lewis Gray.
That sounded borderline romantic
Did
after
it?
many months of being apart.
Well, I didn't do the last couple of episodes, did I? So I feel like I've had such a break that I literally don't know what I'm doing. So I just think this episode might be a bit of a mess, but we're going to try.
See how it goes, mate. I feel like, we went full Ross and Rachel and went on a break for a while. And we had Elliot on the podcast temporarily. So yeah, it does feel like doing it for the first time again. This feels quite odd, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It's exciting though to get season 3 up and running again.
It is, and especially when the headliners are back. The band is back together, not these stand-ins like Elliot and Neil. The main events.
Any future guests now, we're just going to have that stamped on them, just the stand-ins for the time being.
Let's be honest, that is what they are. And it was interesting because I was thinking about this earlier, and this is actually related to what we do. Where we talk a lot about CEOs being active on social, there is a reality that comes with that, which is sometimes stuff's going on and you're stressed. And for me, I can only do a podcast episode if I feel like I'm in a really good mood. If I've got some kind of drama, or not say drama, if I've got something going on, which is very CEO-y, well, I don't do a lot of that. When I do, the last thing I want to do is get on a podcast and be all cheery. So I need a bench of people that can come on the podcast when I'm not in the mood to do it. So I think if people see that I haven't been on the podcast for 6 months, assume that I'm stressed out, maybe reach out, see if I'm okay. If I'm on it every week, everything's great.
It's going to turn into a podcast therapy session.
Yeah, exactly.
We should get into today's episode anyway, because we do have some very exciting news. So towards the back end of last season, we announced the fact that Bradley had released a book. So that was Employee Advocacy, 101 Cheat Codes. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see Brad's got a copy just behind him on his decorated shelf, pride of place next to the lightsaber. But just recently we launched, and this week we're officially launching a free course on employee advocacy called the Employee Advocacy Certification. And I say officially launching because we opened it up to early access for a select number of our clients and just some people who have been on emailing lists for some time, just to kind of get that initial feedback and trial it essentially. And the feedback we've had so far has been overwhelmingly positive. So delighted to announce that we're officially launching that. It's 11 on-demand modules covering the ins and outs of employee advocacy, hosted entirely by Bradley. But it covers everything from the benefits to training employees and managing a successful program. But it's also value packed. So it's, you've got everything from exclusive reading in there to case studies, podcast episodes, and you'll even get a free copy of Bradley's book as well as like a course book when you sign up. So those two combined should see you on your path to employee advocacy success, shall we say. But yeah, I'd say I just wanted to start by saying a big shout out to everybody who's already completed the course, and a huge thank you as well to everybody who gave us plenty of valuable feedback. Because Brad, I don't think at any point during the course did you say to people, share your certificate to LinkedIn. I think you said about adding it as a certification, but the amount of user generated content that we've seen on LinkedIn has been fantastic, but also just massively appreciated. So a big shout out to everybody who shared their certificates. I've got it kind of pride of place here. I pinched this off our director of customer success. We framed her certificate for her. So you can post it to your LinkedIn. You can put it in a frame.
Did you frame it?
Emily's done here. I did. Yeah. Do you know what? I was gonna make out that Emily had done it, but I did frame it for her and stick it on my desk just to make her look like a big tryhard. But no, yeah, I framed that for her. But I pinched it just for this. But no, yeah, I just wanted to say, or we wanted to say, a massive thank you to everybody who's done that.
How did you find making the course?
Do you know what? I loved it, is the overarching feeling. There's a lot to consider. It's one of those things, we've done this time and time again with so many things that we've produced, where you go into it not having a clue, and then to see it. I mean, the past 9 months have just been like just kind of all mashed into one. It feels like, when I think back to producing the course, but seeing it all plastered over LinkedIn over the past couple of days has been amazing. But it was a roller coaster for sure. Bradley, I think you can probably speak more on the pains that we had with producing it.
Yeah, it was. See, the thing is, I think sometimes when, and I'll say, I think the production of it is amazing. And just so people know, we did it ourselves. We didn't hire an external company to come in and do it. We literally bought the equipment. We bought the cameras, the teleprompter. We learned how to use it. And we did what, I guess scrappy startups do. You think, actually, I think I could probably do that myself. And often I think that, and now I'm proved actually I couldn't do it myself and I should have asked for help. But in this situation, we had a small team of people that essentially learned how to do it. And it took a little bit longer because we did that. So the first time we had we went to shoot somewhere, because it kind of has to look like it's an office, but we're not allowed to film in our office. So we went to a location. We took all the equipment there. Everyone got up really early in the morning. I'd learnt the script. And then there's just a dog barking. There's people upstairs you can hear. It's not soundproof. So that was just a completely wasted day. And then we did a second shoot. And then I lost my voice and got frustrated. So we did half a day. And then at the end, I think I was so over it. Like, I was enjoying it, but I wanted it to be over, that I really had to just focus and be like, if you read what's on that teleprompter, you won't have to do this again. And that got me through it. And then when I did the course, because I had to do it afterwards, I was surprised, because I was learning things that I was telling myself, and it was a really surreal experience. Because there was things that I guess I do know, but hearing it in the way that it was scripted that I learned from actually helped me reaffirm my knowledge, which was a very bizarre experience.
Mate, I get there with the podcasts even. I'll go back and listen to podcast episodes and forget that we've spoken about something. It's just like a reminder, isn't it? It's something you haven't spoken about for a while. You cover it again and then it hits you. But yeah, thinking back to that bad shoot day, the first one where we had all of that background noise, and we're obviously not naming people, so it's fine to say this, but there was this one dude that just kept coming up and down through our studio that we paid to rent to shoot this material, and just interrupting the recording like it was nothing. And it was just absolutely bizarre. And every time it happened, we all just kind of sat there and looked at each other. I think it might have been you or James on the production team who called it early, but yeah, it was a journey and an experience, to say the least.
Is there anything you would change about looking back after you'd watched it? Is there anything you wish hadn't been in the script or that you had changed?
I don't know if I would have changed anything. I think the feedback that we've got from everybody so far has been reaffirming. So we wouldn't have ever put it out if we weren't confident and 100% happy with it. And just hearing everybody's feedback has just, reaffirmed it. So I think if, till we hear that we need to change something, I think my attitude will be the same. I think it will be, I mean, this is a bit of insider info, so sneak preview for anybody listening, but DSMN8 Academy, which we've set up to host these courses, is not going to be a one-trick pony. So we will have more courses released and available in the near future. And I think the biggest thing is just the next one's going to be so, I don't want to jinx this, but so easy by comparison. Because
because you have your system, you've made the mistakes this time. So made the mistakes in the sense of learning the process that you get to. But yeah, I think the end result was brilliant. And the amount of good feedback I've had from it, but it's also the bit I've liked the most about it is a lot of the people that are giving feedback are actually employee advocacy professionals. They're companies that provide employee advocacy consultation, and they're doing the course and contacting us and saying, "Oh, that's really good." And we try to make it. We have this internal name for it. I don't think it's an external name, where we have this educate everyone strategy, which is essentially just educate everyone on employee advocacy, and a percentage of them will become clients of ours, and a percentage of them will become clients of other platforms. But it's our job to make sure that we can increase that percentage. But we're trying to do the let's say the tide lifts all ships. Is that the strategy? Is that how you say it?
I feel like I learned a new phrase from you every time we record a podcast
Mate,
episode.
that makes me sound old, like a
No, no.
wise man. This is
Every single one that you've mentioned in the past, I've said to my girlfriend, she's been like, "How did you not know that was a thing?" And then she'll ask me, "How many people listen to your podcast and now know that you didn't know that was a thing?" And just roast me for it. So I think it's a
well.
me problem.
Well, before we talk about, because I think we're going to speak about a specific module in the course. There was one bit in the script which I wish I hadn't have said,
Sure.
and it's part of this module actually, because revised it earlier when we were planning for the podcast, and it was when I say trust me, because I think when people say trust me, it's exclusively said by people who should not be trusted.
Trust me, bro.
And it's just the way I go, trust me, like you have to trust me on this. And what I'm saying when I'm saying trust me is you need an employee advocacy platform, and I'm completely biased on that. So I just felt like it was a bit salesman kind of going, trust me, you definitely need an employee advocacy platform. And I'm not saying it should be disseminate, but trust me, it probably is. Please become a customer. So I wish I hadn't have said the trust me bit, but other than that, it was brilliant.
That is absolutely fantastic. I know the bit you're talking about as well, because you say you promise to keep it platform agnostic.
Yes.
And then the small sales pitch.
Yeah, indeed.
What was your least favorite part though, other than something you change? Was it just
making the course?
Making the course, yeah, on the production side of things.
Just when I kept losing my voice, which I didn't understand because I speak all day. But I think knowing I was speaking to a camera, I felt like I needed to amplify my voice a little bit. And then I didn't realize how much strain that puts on your voice, even doing that for a couple of hours. So I started to lose my voice. And the first time we recorded it, my voice didn't come back properly for about 2 weeks afterwards. So, obviously some people would listen to this and say, well, obviously that's why people have voice coaches and all those kind of things. But you can see why learning to speak properly if you're going to do things like that on an ongoing basis. So I think if we do a course which is longer in duration, I will be looking for some kind of voice coach, or somebody else will be presenting it. So watch this space.
And you've got a whole host of remedies now as well, right? So you've just got it's like a bag of,
yeah, it's just like different lozenges of different kinds, different sprays. It's got everything.
You're going to be one of those, like a musician who has a really niche rider. It's like, I need lozenges, but they have to be this brand and this flavor.
Or we might have the first in-house voice coach of an employee advocacy program.
Do everything yourself, man.
Indeed.
Cool. So we should probably explain the premise of this episode. We're not just going to talk about the course. We wanted to offer a bit of value and give you a taste of what you can expect to learn if you sign up for the course. And should mention now before we get to the end, but if you want to sign up for the course, we'll pop a QR code on screen for anybody watching this. But as always, the links will be in the show notes. So you can always do it that way if you're listening on Spotify or wherever else. But the premise for this episode is we wanted to go through one of the modules, which is probably one of the most valuable modules in the course, I would say, because it's about measuring and defining success of an employee advocacy program. And it's right towards the end as well. So jam-packed full of value. But the way that we're going to treat this is, in the course itself, this is only about 5 minutes of Brad speaking. And it's very concise. It's to the point, all of the values there, but we're just going to build on a few of those things today. So within the course, as I mentioned, there's additional reading that you can go through. We'll just cover some of the stuff that's covered in there essentially, but treating this like a module from the course, we'll pop all of those additional resources in the show notes as well, so you can get a taste of what you'd get if you were to sign up. So I guess that's the place to start, really, is defining and measuring success. So you've launched an employee advocacy program, or you're thinking of launching one. Right off the bat, Brad, what would you say is, and I think we've already touched on this, so this might be a bit of an aggressive sales pitch now, but what is the first thing that you would say you need for employee advocacy success?
Are you specifically asking about measuring success, or are you talking about success as in results?
Results, yeah.
So measuring results and there being results are two different things. So you could, in theory, you could launch an employee advocacy program without a platform, and that program could simply be I don't know, once a week someone says, hey, could you be more active on social? Right now, whether that works or doesn't work, you won't really know whether it worked or not outside of anecdotal information. So most businesses, if you're beyond your 50 employees, you can't build a business based on anecdotal information. You need reporting, you need metrics, you need trend lines, you need to show that this investment that you're putting into something is actually paying off. So, and even if I'm saying you can do it without a platform, it's still going to have a cost. So if we think about somebody who's running a program and they work in a large organization and they have a salary and they have a pension and they have a desk and they have a laptop, that's still a cost. So somebody running a program without a platform has a cost. And in order to justify their cost, they need the metrics to support it. So I would say if you wanted long-term success in running an employee advocacy program inside an organization, you would need a platform, because that's the only way you're going to get reliable metrics to see participation and also outcomes that you would have from it. There was a long-winded way of explaining that, but I didn't want to say you have to have a platform regardless, because in certain situations you don't. You just wouldn't be able to show whether it worked or not.
No, I think that was a very diplomatic answer. I don't think that wasn't aggressively pushing a platform or anything like that. I think you've explained perfectly why you could, and maybe why you could go without, and why you probably should get a platform if you want to achieve and measure, I guess, the best results. But something that you touch on within the course itself, which I think we'll cover in a bit more detail in an additional episode, because there's a lot to this, but it's just choosing the most dedicated person to run your platform as well, or your program, I should say. So a program itself will be a team initiative. So if you're a larger organization, especially if you're an organization, with multiple subsidiaries, then you're going to need team leaders and additional admins to help with the day-to-day running of the platform. But ultimately, you do need one person who will take full ownership of it. Brad, you can probably speak more to this than I can, but I've heard of so many instances where platforms might go a bit stale and things kind of grind to a slow halt, and without that person there to say, to kind of motivate those team leaders and to be pushing the numbers, I'd say, and showcasing the performance, then it's difficult to kind of get things up and running again, because everybody gets busy, and I don't know, it can fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say a large proportion of our new clients have had an employee advocacy program before. So I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm going to say it's probably around half, which is a lot. So if you think about if you think about the employee advocacy industry, some people might think it's new. It's actually not. We weren't the first company to do it. I think the first company started doing it in like 2009, which is crazy early when you think about where social media was in 2009 versus now. So I think a lot of people are migrating over, but the technology wasn't great, but the core issue is actually having someone to run that program, and often that's aligned to the individual's own metrics. So if you think about let's say it's a social media manager, social media director, if their annual bonus or performance related pay, whatever it is, if that metric is a dated metric, like how many likes we get, right, on our corporate page. So if my metric is, well, if I get on average 50 likes on my corporate page, then I get my bonus, then I might not think employee advocacy is a good idea, even if employee advocacy actually generates more inbound inquiries, generates more web traffic, whatever. So I think part of the problem was actually the way people were measured. I think what happened in 2023, and where the industry and the market changed, people moved more towards actual outcomes when it comes to goals, rather than it being, well, as long as we get more clicks, then that's a good thing. The most important thing now is what those clicks actually do, which I think is why a lot of people are starting to see employee advocacy as a must-have, as opposed to a bolt-on to the social media team.
Definitely. I'm gonna I'm going to put a pin in this point for now, only because something you've just said as well has got me thinking about the episode that we can potentially put together on this. But I would say, again, if you're signing up for the course, there's plenty more on identifying the ideal person to take ownership. But because we're talking about measuring and defining success, I wanted to just move onto goal setting and the importance of setting goals.
Hold on, can I just go back? I'm going to stop you. You stop
Yeah,
me. I'm going to combat that because I just remembered something that I know you're going to love. So
go.
before Christmas, I was with a client in person, and we were sat around a table. We were talking about the importance of having a global program manager. So having local administrators, they're doing a task, but having that one person that's basically championing. That's a word. Employee advocacy. And this guy, he had the best analogy. He said, and he's Italian, and he delivered. I'm not going to do an Italian impression, by the way, but he said you need a church, but you also need a priest.
That is
And
absolutely fantastic.
yeah, and I was like nodding my head. I thought I'm definitely going to steal that. So and that's what, to me, that's what the global program manager is. It's the person that's the advocate for the program, not running the day to day. But the smaller the company, obviously, they can do both. I think in a larger organization where you've got 10, 20 different regions using it, you need that person that's just advocating for advocacy. And they're just going around and promoting it as a concept as opposed to the day to day.
Yeah, and I guess there's maybe an element of not wanting to tread on somebody else's toes as well. If there isn't one person who owns it, then if you've got a couple of people who kind of take ownership but they're not really sure who's running it. So I manage our employee advocacy program within DSMN8. No surprise, we use our own software. But I'll often showcase some of the numbers that we've driven. So I'll just create an internal post within the platform and it's mainly just to thank everybody for their contributions, but just to say, hey, last month you guys generated this for us. Thank you so much, etc., etc. But if somebody's not taking ownership and you've got a couple of people who kind of do but don't, nobody's going to want to jump in and do that because they don't want to be seen as the one who's kind of claiming ownership. And I know that's going to be a personality trait. You might have somebody who's eager to impress and to kind of make an impression and will grasp that opportunity and take ownership. But generally speaking, I feel like unless somebody's told to do something, that they can do something, especially within larger organizations where perhaps it's a bit more political, for lack of a better word, you might not want to be seen to be doing what you perceive to be somebody else's job. Does that make sense?
It does. You can stop me now and we can segue back to where you segued back to before.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Right. I was gonna. You
Sorry.
said the church and priest thing, and you sent my mind on something.
Yeah,
else.
you're already writing the blog post. It's already out there.
So on the goal setting front, okay. So back to that. So you're never going to be able to measure success if you don't define ahead of time what you think success looks like. So this isn't even from the marketing playbook. This is just goal setting 101. But we always encourage people to set SMART goals. So goals that are, and sorry if sounds patronizing in nature if you're familiar with this, but specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. The reason we say this is because, I mean, for me personally, with our program, I measure things quarterly and yearly. So I'm always trying to beat the last quarter or achieve something every quarter. And then at the end of every year, I'll conduct a review and compare that to the previous year. But we know what we want to achieve from the platform, but you have to know what success looks like for your organization. So are you trying to drive more website traffic? Because if you are, then you need to measure totally different metrics to what you would be measuring if you were, doing it as a brand awareness initiative. So to give you a bit of insight to our platform or our program, at Disseminate, we use self-reported attribution for all inbound inquiries. So there's no drop down. You don't have to choose how you heard about us. You can just tell us. It's free text. You can tell us whatever you want. And more often than not, so the majority of people say, I'm connected with a Disseminate employee, or, Jody Leon posted this, Bradley Keenan posted that, but it will always be on LinkedIn somewhere that they heard about us. And that's where the majority of our inbounds come from. So to us, that's the most positive signal that we need, that what we're doing from a brand awareness perspective is working. But that's, for us, that's one of our goals, is to, I won't get into the specifics, but is to increase our brand awareness through our program. So, Brad, I don't know if I know a lot of
I could talk all day about reporting, to be honest. I think it's interesting. To me, the things you're reporting on align to the patience level of the person that it requires the reporting. So if we think about self-reported attribution, and we didn't create this. This is something we've taken from others and taken it as a suggestion. And actually, it's amazing, because you hear things that you would never have heard if you had a drop down. So we have had inbound inquiries where the referrer, whether the referrer, the source, or how did you hear about us, is ChatGPT. So we didn't think about that. I mean, we probably did think about that, but actually hearing, we got 2 inbound inquiries in a week because somebody searched on ChatGPT, who's a good employee advocacy program platform. That's interesting to us. But we do see the majority of it is LinkedIn, friend, used to work at X company. So the downside of that is that it's a little bit messy to deal with that data, but what you actually get is really interesting. And sometimes you get the most random things that people write, like the internet we had the other day. How did you hear about it? It's the internet. It's like, please be more specific about, because we can't do anything with that data. But I think when we think about an employee advocacy program, to me, that's kind of quite far down the funnel, that they've actually said, I am in market, or I'm potentially in market, and I'd like to talk to you. And then they then become a customer, and we say, what was the lead source of that customer? We signed them up, lead source LinkedIn. Well, that probably come from employee advocacy, so I can attribute that company revenue to employee advocacy. But way before that happens, there's a whole load of stuff that happens. Now, we're a smallish organization, so we can be quite patient in the sense of, well, we know what our end game is. If I just launched this as a program and I'd asked for budget for it, and I know my sales cycle could be anywhere up to a year before somebody reaches out, between me launching my advocacy program and a year, something has to happen in that period of time that I can use to tell people internally this is working. So that starts with how many people are logging in to the platform. What percentage of them find content that they are interested in? When they share it, does it generate LinkedIn reactions? Do those people who have the reactions go on to click the link? When they go to the link, how many pages do they visit? Do they visit other things? But all of those things are leading indicators that suggest something's going to happen in the future. My issue with reporting is when people focus on those things as the goal. And then when you speak to people, and this is a bugbear for me, when I speak to somebody who's in marketing, and if I ask them, how does your company make money? Like, assuming you're not a charity, you're a capitalist organization, and profit and revenue is what you're after. How will this lead to that? And often people in marketing and social roles, they seem to disconnect from the revenue piece, and they think the goal is reactions. And to me, I think that's short-sighted, because that will get you by for 10 months or so. But when it comes around to renewing your program and maybe investing more, a CFO now is going to say, what did this actually do from a revenue perspective? And if you can't answer that question, then you may struggle. So I think more people are becoming more sophisticated in how they view attribution. But I think there still is a group of people that seem to just think about the vanity metrics, which I know we speak about a lot.
No, definitely. I completely agree. I think this is slightly off topic, but it kind of links to what you said, but something you mentioned just teed it up in my mind. But I would say, if you've got a CEO, CMO, CFO, whoever it is, who is skeptical that your employee advocacy program is making a difference, if, like us, for example, you're doing it for predominantly brand awareness benefits, Brad, obviously you've got a marketing brain. You understand that it's not just all a numbers game within the analytics suite. You see the additional impact happening. You know, and we know that this is contributing to driving more inbounds, and we can see that whether it's within DSMN8's analytics suite, or if we're going to the self-reported attribution, we can see people referencing it, but in the nicest way possible, you could say to that skeptical CMO, CFO, I can turn it off. We can switch this off and then see what happens.
But we've done that. I mean, and this is, I won't go into the details of the specifics, but we have activity that we do that we think makes an impact on our inbound traffic. Right. And then we decide, actually, I don't think it is actually doing that. And it's a really random thing that we do. We switch it off, and then 3-4 weeks later, the inbound traffic drops. But we can't actually work out why that one activity seems to something happens out there in the web that we can't track. But there's definitely a causation of that. We do that and we get inbound traffic. If we were reporting that to a CFO, that'd be really hard to justify, because there isn't that linear pattern that says, oh, well, I know why this happens. But eventually you have to just say, well, when I do this, I get more of my actual desired outcome, which is inbound traffic.
Yeah.
It's like a trust thing. It's difficult to do, which is why I think you need those metrics that you get from click data to actually support running a program, because it does show it's working, but ultimately having that attributed to revenue is where you want to get to.
I really thought when you said about it being a trust thing that you were going to go on to, so trust me, you need a platform. Trust me, bro. Something else I did just want to touch on while we're on the goal setting thing is the importance of individual goal setting as well. So don't just make it a company initiative. We know it's an employee-led initiative, so employees have to be involved and feel like they're contributing. Obviously, there's heaps of personal branding benefits that we've covered in a number of episodes, but individual goal setting could be even departmental. So if, this is just off the top of my head, but hypothetically, your goal is to have the company share 10 pieces of company content per week. Super low. I know this just made up numbers, but if you then had a departmental goal for your marketing team for them to share 3 pieces of company content per week, that contributes to your company-wide goal, but then also it will contribute to their individual goals of, everything we've just spoken about, building on brand awareness, more website traffic, et cetera, but just trying to, it's probably a poor example, but I'm just trying to think of ways to explain that setting individual goals and helping your employees achieve their personal goals can help you achieve your company-wide goals. Brad, you're the salesman. You can probably put that in a more concise way.
Yeah, I can try to. I'm interested to know, do you know, when we talk about, you've used the examples of marketing, do you know, do you have any indication of what, how do I explain this? So I'll be straight. So a common problem is marketing people not using the employee advocacy program that they ask other people to use. Which I think is when if you actually have a goal which is attached to it and people are accountable for it, then they will do it because it's part of their goal to get to. But I think sometimes people think that they're providing the service to somebody else, so other people should share, but they shouldn't. But it's very difficult to justify asking somebody to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself. And actually, I think it's a good filter to make sure that content that you put in is of a quality that you would be happy sharing yourself. Makes it more likely that other people will. So I think having goals that you work to on a regular basis just stop that from slipping.
Yeah. I think, I've had to catch myself, excuse me, doing that on a number of occasions before. I've got I need the Brad's lozenges pack. But I've had to stop myself doing that on one occasion. I want to say I did this once and then realized, but I curated a piece of content, went to share it later, and I just thought, I don't want to share any of these posts. And the reason was I was just trying to get a piece of content in there, and I wasn't happy with any of them for my own LinkedIn. But then if you take a step back, it's like, why would you expect somebody else to share it if you're not happy to? And it just kind of made me elevate my game from a caption writing perspective, I guess. But yeah, 100%. If you're not participating and practicing what you preach, especially as a marketer, you cannot expect other people to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I think that's having the right content in there, different content that serves different groups of people. salespeople will share different content to somebody looking to recruit, as an example. So the bigger the organization, naturally, the more content that's there to choose from.
Nice. Brad, we've been going for about 30 minutes. I think for the sake of trying to keep this as concise as possible, we should probably wrap this one up and let people digest the course of material in their own time.
That's polite Lewis speak for Brad. You waffled for way too long, so now we can't cover everything that we were originally going to talk about.
It's a combination of that and my throat is starting to give out, and I need a glass of water to keep going.
Okay.
But yes, if you do want to hear that, sorry, that's a two-part module. So
your voice is going. I'm going to see if you can get through the outro.
Does it have a more raspy sound to it? Okay.
It's very, yeah.
It's like that sickness voice. I forgot what I was saying. I've lost it now.
You were going to summarize the podcast and then go and get a glass of water, I think was the plan.
Yes. And I was going to do that by saying that the module that we've just covered is actually a two-parter. So part 1 is measuring and defining success. And then part 2 is all about engaging employees and ensuring continued participation. So obviously, Brad and I have elaborated on a lot of these points. Like I said, with the course, every module, I think the maximum lesson is about 6 minutes long. You can run through the course in 1 to 2 hours, but if you really want to further your learning, then jump into those additional resources, listen to the additional podcast episodes, and definitely read those case studies as well, because there's heaps of value in there if you are trying to set up for success. But again, if you want to sign up, we'll pull up that QR code again. The link is in the show notes below. And again, just a massive thank you to everybody who's already taken the course and shouted about it on LinkedIn for us.
What I like about that bit is if we take that clip and make it a TikTok short or whatever the phrase is, you sounded like you were getting choked up. So because you were losing your voice, no. So you were sort of saying, "Thank you so much, guys. It cost me so much to me."
Do you know what? It's been an emotional few weeks.
Lou gets emo is what the phrase should be.
I'll pull my fringe down.
Yeah. Lou just got so choked up. The amount of people that were sharing certificates on LinkedIn, and one person framed it, which was Lewis. And for the record, you don't get a framed certificate. It is a digital one.
I can't believe you called me out in the first 5 minutes for framing the certificate.
Yeah, well, I was like, how did that happen? No doubt there's going to be on an expenses report at some point that I'm going to be signing off.
Or that's already happened, mate.
That's already happened.
Straight to finance. Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks' time.